Alright, got a kind of pre-build League Starter concrete plans video here, just kind of some concept stuff that I've been spitballing, just build ideas, you know, things of that nature. No POBs in this, I don't know what I'm playing yet. This is just kind of the stage one, step one of planning out my League Starter. Just some stuff that I came across that sounds interesting, I think could be good, could be playable, could be an option. Whatever I actually play on League Start is very much going to be skewed by the hardcore SSF race. So there's some builds that I think would be really cool that I probably just won't start as my first build because of the race, because I don't think they'll work there. But anyway, this first one is one that could actually be played in the race, and it's basically just Manaman Hierophant, Ball Lightning from last league. This is my character that I played in Settlers that was a Ball Lightning character. You could play Ball Lightning again. One thing that I looked at that was interesting though is the Transfigured Vortex of Projection gem, which works similarly to the Frostbolt or Ice Nova of Frostbolt's gem, but Ice Nova of Frostbolt's is getting nerfed very hard. It's literally like its damage is cut in half. And I wanted to see how this one performs. Basically, the difference between this and the Ice Nova is Ice Nova does not destroy the Frostbolts. This one does. You can see there's Frostbolts getting deleted in there. But it has like higher damage and some other stuff. The reason Ice Nova would have been higher DPS prior to this new league is because of how it interacted with Spell Echo specifically, where Spell Echo repeat just gives you essentially 2x damage for free on top of the Spell Echo cast speed. This one doesn't get that, whatever. But that being said, Vortex of Projection is being buffed, and the buffed numbers on this skill actually bring it pretty close to the numbers, as far as I could tell, on the pre-nerfed Ice Nova. It's not quite there, I don't think. In like a perfect ideal world where you're like getting exact perfect casts and a bunch of nonsense, sure, but not quite. But anyway, so the way it works, it's just a mana build. If you aren't familiar, there's probably a billion different things out there for mana hierophants, for Ball Lightning and Ice Nova. It's that same exact build, just you're switching your skill around. And Vortex of Projection, so the way it works, if I take some of these gems out to kind of just show it, it explodes up to 5 Frostbolts. So Frostbolt with Greater Volley spawns 5 Frostbolts. So if I cast Vortex, you'll see it blows them all up, but it does it in a pretty slow sequence, which is not really ideal, honestly. But it means you need new Frostbolts every time you cast. Kind of. Because the way it actually works, if I pull up the wiki and I pull up a Vortex of Projection, one thing it mentioned that was really interesting sounding to me is explosion sequences from different vortex effects appear to stack. When a vortex effect explodes from a frostbolt, other ongoing vortex effects that have explosions remaining also explode from that frostbolt. Which might sound kind of confusing, but like, one way to think of it is when you cast a vortex, as long as there are 5 frostbolts that exist, even if they are already going to be detonated by a different vortex, then that vortex will get 5 explosions. So a good way to visualize it. I did testing on stream yesterday. There's VODs and stuff of that. I used like self-poison to confirm the things that I needed to see with it. But you actually end up with a pretty good amount of hits without actually needing too many Frostbolts. So if I put Spell Echo into this Vortex, I'm still only shooting 5 Frostbolts. So intuitively, without seeing that line that I just read, you would think, okay, Spell Echo is going to make me cast twice, obviously, right? But there's only 5 Frostbolts, so there's still only 5 explosions, which it only looks like there's 5 explosions. But actually what happens is the very first cast is from, you know, the first cast of Vortex. It blows up 1 Frostbolt. And then my character casts again and blows up another Frostbolt. But when I blow that one up, the first Vortex also blows that up. So it's kind of hard to explain exactly, but essentially when I double cast my Vortex because of Echo like that, there's cast 1 and cast 2. Cast 1 gets 5 full explosions because there's 5 frost bolts when it's cast. And cast 2 gets 4 explosions because there's one that's gone, but the rest are there. So actually, off of these 5 frost bolts, we're getting 9 explosions worth of damage. And again, I've confirmed this. I used self-poison to see the hits. It works. And so it also means you can do things like have Unleash on your Frostbolt and spawn a whole bunch of bolts and then spam Vortex a bunch of times. And a ton of these areas are like 3-4 explosions happening at once. In practice, as with like the normal kind of mana, Hierophant, whatever builds, you'll probably be able to clear if you played this with Frostblink, as long as you have Frostblink linked to Archmage. Right? This isn't showing the damage. I'm in a very low level zone, but just kind of that. And you would primarily, I think, use the Frostbolt Vortex for single target, right? If you wanted to clear, this thing has slower proj in it. It actually does seem decent to clear with. If you put faster proj, you have these really fast vortexes that just travel forward and keep exploding. And you end up covering a really wide area with explosions. But I think it's unnecessary. I think you would mostly just clear by blinking around and just use it for single target. And then the one last other thing you could do is I had Spell Echo in the Vortex. You could do Unleash in your Vortex, and then you have Unleash on your Frostbolt and on your Vortex. You get one like giant burst cast right there. That is just blowing up a crazy number of explosions all at once. And this would let you be a lot more mobile. It would be less DPS than Spell Echo, but it would give you a lot of mobility because you're a bit more free to move around without losing all of your damage while you're waiting for the Unleash seals to recharge themselves. And then again, for clear, I think it kind of looks the same if you put the faster proj in as the last setup. I mean, it's more explosions overall, but it'd be better for that as well. So that's the first build. Again, it's basically just Manaman, but putting a new skill in to replace the old stuff. It looks totally cool. And I tested it on like T16 bosses, and I compared the damage to my Ball Lightning setup from this character. And that's everything I could tell. It will do more damage for sure than current Ball Lightning does. I think it will do a little bit less than what current Ice Nova does. But after the patch, Ice Nova is getting super turbo nerf. So I think this will probably be your highest, or at least one of the highest DPS options for an Archmage setup. That one's pretty cool. The second build idea, I don't actually have a character to show it off. Just stuff from the patch notes, was actually Shield Crush of the Chieftain. This got buffed a decent bit. It gained 20% damage and it gained a little bit of attack time. But a Shield Crush of the Chieftain Ignite build as an Elementalist. Now, the reason that I think this could work, if you look at a shield like Dawnbreaker, which is a pretty accessible, relatively accessible, pretty quickly shield, a like maximum rolled Dawnbreaker with 20 quality will have about 2,500 armor. And if you run the numbers on this at a 2,500 armor shield, it gives you, I think, exactly 4,000 top end fire damage. Which is, if you were to compare that to spells, that's higher than most spells. I think that gets kind of close to like Flame Blast of Contradiction. I think Flame Blast of Contradiction, which is a Flame Blast that you have to channel up, and it gets smaller and smaller. If you fully charge that, its final explosion does like, I think 5 point something thousand. But something like Shield Crush is much more spammable, which means you could use like Elemental Overload. As far as like spammable Ignite stuff goes, I think this is actually pretty high damage. And then it has a couple of other things going for it too. Downside, it's an attack skill. But upside, if you play Elementalists and you stack Golems, and in my mind, this build, I don't think this would be a starter build for me. I think it would be maybe a second build because there's something you would want. I think this build would actually run all five Golems. But like Ice Golem in particular, you're gonna have at least like 200% Golem buff effect. So this is already like 1200 flat accuracy. So that should help you out with it being an attack and getting enough accuracy to be able to run LA Overload. And it gives you the crit chance to proc LA Overload. Flame Golem gives you damage and AoE. Chaos Golem gives you dot multi. And also some Chaos Res, but I wouldn't really count on it too much. And then Lightning Golem is going to make you have no mana problems. It's going to make you attack faster. And then wherever Stone Golem is, you get defense, which you have a giant armor shield. You're going to have a lot of armor, as well as life regen. But to run all 5, you would actually need to run an Anima Stone Jewel, which means you would have to run some Primordial Jewels. But that being said, I think it's Primordial Eminence. Yes, this one has buff effect of your golems, which is great because we're stacking golem buffs. And also it gives the golems themselves a bunch of armor, which hopefully would help them survive better against physical damage, which is like the one big threat because they're immune to elemental. I guess chaos as well, but yeah. So it has that, it has those things going for it. Dawnbreaker's pretty easy to get, and then also because it's like an attack ignite build, it can use things like Dyadian Dawn Belt for the 35% faster ignites. I foresee it as being like a block-based defense thing, even though Dawnbreaker can mess with your block chance, especially as an elementalist that might be taking fire damage from lots of things all the time. But even that considered, I don't actually know if Dawnbreaker would lose its block chance to damage that goes into your elemental shield if you were to take that node. That might help you, it might not, I don't know. But I think you would go block on defense, and then you'd have just like an okay life pool and a bunch of armor. I think you could get some max res too with it, honestly, if you went down the left side of the tree. Again, like, I don't have any specific concrete stuff planned. But the numbers on the Shield Crush gem do look pretty good. And there's a lot of cool things going for it there. As far as playstyle of it goes, I think it would be fine. I've never actually used that gem, but you would have a bunch of AoE because of the Flame Golem. And I mean, maybe you could, in theory, I guess, also get the Convergence for even more AoE for clear. Even if the skill itself doesn't like clear super well, you're Ignite, so you have Ignite Prolif, so it's fine. Yeah, that one seems really cool. I don't know that it would do. I don't know that you would be able to scale it to like really crazy high amounts of damage. It's just really hard to scale Ignite to particularly crazy amounts of damage outside of like Explosive Arrow, because Explosive Arrow. So I said Shield Crush gets like 4,000 top end fire. Explosive Arrow on totems, once you factor in the less damage penalty from the totems, I think is like, I forget, like 17,000 top end fire damage when you can hit max stacks, which takes some extra investments of attack speed and shit to get there. But Explosive Arrow just does really, really high amounts of damage that I think is almost making it harder for other skills to be able to be played as Ignite if Ignite is being balanced around Explosive Arrow's existence. But it would get enough damage to, like, you know, clear high tier maps and do like basic pinnacle content. I just don't know if you'd be able to scale it up for like uber content and super juiced T17s. But it's a cool one. Seems really interesting, and it would take advantage of a lot of new stuff. Like, you could also use potentially, there was a unique ring they showed off in this part of the announcement where you get no armor from your body armor, but the armor from your shield is doubled. If you're playing this Shield Crush, you want as much armor on your shield as possible. Now you double it. You get no armor from your body armor. I mean, you could put on like a Cloak of Flame. You don't even need armor from it, dude. It's Cloak of Flame. You're just so tanky. You would be insanely tanky against physical damage. That's for sure. There's cool stuff like that. It seems like it would be a really interesting one to kind of plan out with the new things we have access to. And then the third one is I mean, nothing new, something old, really. And again, I've like no real specifics planned out about it, but Chaos Dot Spellslinger. And I just have this character to kind of show off the mechanics of if people haven't seen Chaos Dot Spellslinger. Specifically with Essence Drain Contagion and Soul Rend. So again, this is not a real character. This is just to show how the gems function mechanically. I think you should be able to play this from like level 28. I think it should be very playable. And it will probably fall off too much in damage eventually, and then maybe you would like transition to just a regular Chaos Dot build, maybe with Blight of Contagion. I've heard good things about that gem. I haven't played it myself, but it got buffed pretty heavily. And Chaos Dots in general, even with the buffs, I don't think, again, are going to be that crazy. I don't think you're farming Ubers. I don't think you're going to be doing insane juiced content, but it'll get you to like baseline T17s, baseline pinnacle bosses, all that. It should be able to, no problem. I don't know that, again, Spellslinger would get you all the way, but it would be like a starter that is really easy to play and fast. So we have our wand skill of Frenzy, and when you hit it, it is casting Contagion, it's casting Soul Rend, it's casting Essence Drain. Like, as soon as you hit level 28 for the Soul Rend requirement, you could have like a Spellslinger linked to Essence Drain Soul Rend with like 1 damage support, and then you'd have a Spellslinger linked to Contagion and increased AoE once you could get that. And you're kind of just golden. Like, you just go, you tap it, it does the ED Contagion things. It's like a really easy, really smooth clearing setup, right? And when you get the density, you get those big spreads like that. If you were to look at like specific damage numbers, so for something like ED or whatever, Spellslinger's kind of a dead support slot for damage. You'd be losing a support gem's worth of damage, but all the Chaos Dots gained roughly 20% damage. Some of them gained a little bit more. So you're making up a big chunk of that, and then also for Spellslinger, you get to just throw Frenzy out all the time because that's how you're triggering, which means you get Frenzy charges that you may not have gotten otherwise, and if you factored that in, then you've basically made up all the damage you've lost from a support gem. The point being, Spellslinger dots in the Secrets of the Atlas League will probably do about as much as self-casted did last league. And we know that self-casting Chaos Dots is playable. It's just not fantastic. But when you're doing it all in one button now and getting a ton of smoothness, it could be at least a nice starter to get you up into maps, and probably into at least, I would hope, red maps before maybe you have to pivot to something for more damage. Who knows, maybe somehow it'll stay competitive enough to keep slinging even into T16. That would be a surprise, but it would be very cool. And yeah, like I said, this one I have no other specific plans. It's just the build as an idea. Like, it will work. The reservation should be manageable. I think you could run that set of Spellslingers. Like, you'd have endgame. I think it would still just be a 3-link for the Contagion Spellslinger, and then like a 6-link where you share ED and Soul Rend. With the buffed mana reservation requirement on Spellslinger, and there's also a Spellslinger reservation mastery that they showed from Wands. You should be able to run the Slingers, and I think at least you should be able to fit a 50% reservation aura, so like a Grace or something would be doable. And like, that should be okay enough. I mean, you could also run like Love Ones for the damage instead. I don't know that you could get both, but it'd be really tough. But you could get at least one of them. But yeah, I just wanted to show off a few builds. I'm probably going to be doing another day of kind of just brainstorming base ideas like this. Other stuff that I've been thinking about, I've been thinking a lot about like cold dot spell elementalist stuff, but I don't want to do any real specific planning on that because they said that there's more changes for the cold damage and spells part of the passive tree that's not out yet, that we should hopefully get in the next day, 2 or 3, hopefully soon. But those will be definitely playable again. Stormburst is going to be really strong. You could do totems. You can honestly probably also do self-cast. Stormburst was already, like, as far as spells go, is one of the ones that was actually playable. It's pretty good. And it got buffed again. That skill keeps getting buffed, and it actually does a lot of damage already. So, definitely Stormburst on the radar. Cold Dots. I looked at Fizz Dot stuff. I'm just not impressed by the numbers still. Because, like, they lack, you know, either the convenience of Chaos Dot where you get, like, Contagion spreads, or they lack, like, the utility of Cold Dot where you chill everything. I feel like Fizz Dots is kind of in roughly Cold Dot levels of damage without any of the utility convenience. So, kind of on that one. And other than that, I messed around looking at some BV of the site that didn't look too impressive. It's probably something that's playable. BV in general. You might be able to do some weird Tri-Herald Blade Vortex Elementalist, bring that old build back in some shape or form. I think that's actually a possibility too, especially in softcore. Because you could, Elementals can give you so much AoE. Like 120% ink AoE from Elementalist or more. And also running Tri-Heralds, that could be a fun one. But I don't think it would get, I think defense would be a problem with that. So hardcore might be tougher to pull off effectively on a starter. But yeah, that's it. Some cool builds, some cool ideas, more coming soon. I'll probably lock in my actual starter and get some more concrete build, you know, plans, POBs, and things of that nature put together in like, you know, a few days from now. But we got time. We got basically a week to plan these things out. That's it. Thanks for watching. See ya.